Hi everyone. I'm gonna get started now, and hopefully we'll have more people kind of start filing in. But just to get started, if everyone can kind of enter their name in the chat and then maybe just like what you're hoping to learn today during this workshop, that'd be great. Oh yeah, and sorry about the background noise. As you guys can tell, I'm outside, so yes. So you'll probably be hearing lots of like nature-y sounds throughout this whole workshop. If you're just joining, like I was saying, if you could enter your name in the chat and then kind of like what you're hoping to learn, just so I can kind of see like who's on, that'd be great. Hi, Rachel. Yeah, if there's anyone else on the call, if you could also enter some information into the chat, that'd be good. And then I'm gonna probably get started with everything within like the next minute or two. Give me one quick minute. I will be right back, and we'll jump in right away. Okay, thanks for waiting, everyone. I'm going to just jump in now, and then as we have more people kind of come in, then we can do kind of like mini introductions again. But yeah, I'm super excited to talk to everyone today, and then for people who aren't watching live right now, excited for you guys to watch this video after. How this workshop's going to be kind of structured is I'm going to be kind of introducing myself, talking a little bit about what we do at the Urban Garden Initiative just to start off. And then we're going to do a portion more about specifically gardening, container gardening, how to get that started at home. I'm going to teach you guys some different things that you can kind of use at home to start these gardens. And then at the end, we will do like a little mini Q&A session and kind of wrap up from there. But again, this is super interactive. So if you ever have any questions, want to stop me at any point, have any like comments or anything, feel free to just add them into the chat and happy to answer them. And I'll, just keep answering anything that kind of flows in. But to start off, my name is Megan. I run an organization called the Urban Garden Initiative. To give you guys a little bit of a backstory about what we do, we are a very like for youth by youth organization, and I'm actually a current senior myself. And yeah, so just before kind of like jumping in and getting started, the mini backstory, I guess, of when we first started doing it was we created it here within Wilmington, Delaware. It started off as just me and a couple other people being very passionate about gardening and teaching environmental education to students, and wanting to kind of solve this major food desert problem within Wilmington, Delaware. And so we, went into schools teaching students about how to sustainably grow their own food, and tackle this major problem that they had within their community, while also educating about a lot of other environmental topics, whether it's climate change and pollution or whatever it was, and just doing kind of 1 hour workshops like that. And I really want to emphasize through all of that as, like, I guess, a young person starting a nonprofit, it's definitely something that you can do. And again, I'm not quite sure what age you are for all the people that are jumping on, but if it's something that you're interested in getting started, you're interested in creating your own business or nonprofit, and you have any questions related to that, please add that into the chat. Happy to answer those. But again, yeah, it started very small with just us kind of wanting to create a change in our community. And from there, we began developing more programs, longer programs, from just going into schools in the fall and the spring. We started going and doing like 6 to 8 week programs and summer camps. And now we actually run the Urban Garden Initiative globally. So we have chapters all around the world, in different cities and countries, led most of the time by young people, whether it's high school or college, or by community members. And they do very similar work to kind of what we start here within Wilmington, Delaware. So they are creating gardens, they're teaching workshops, and getting involved in a number of other environmental projects all throughout the year, that we do with a lot of the organizations that we partner with. We actually recently just did a container garden pickup/delivery event, to a lot of the different schools that we work with, to bring gardening to as many students as we can, and just to teach them in general how to be more sustainable. Hi, Brittany. To teach them how to be more sustainable and just live more like environmentally friendly lives. Like I was saying, although we have like a focus in gardening, we also do a lot of other just like general environmental work. So we talk about a lot of different environmental issues in our workshops that we teach. And yeah, we're kind of expanding from there. So that's kind of the very condensed backstory of how we started the Urban Garden Initiative. Before I jump into kind of the container gardening workshop portion, if you have any questions about kind of the work that we do here at the Urban Garden Initiative, starting your own nonprofit or business, or anything like that, please let me know now. Cool. I'm just going to keep going, and if there's are questions that end up coming up, again, just add them into the chat and I will answer them as they kind of come along. And also, YouTube Live is very new to me, so if some of these things don't work out or something's not working, please let me know. I'm not super familiar with it. And right before this, I just realized that you can't actually screen share, so to kind of work around that, I had prepared kind of a presentation that we're going to use for the container gardening portion, as well as some other things. So I'm just going to share on a different device and kind of show you guys. If you can't really see it clearly, please let me know. But I'm going to be like sharing it kind of like that, and there's probably going to be a glare, so we will just have to kind of work around that. And part of it's not also going to be in presentation form. So yeah, anyway, so the presentation itself is called Why Do We Garden? So we're just going to be talking about the importance of gardening, how to get your own garden started at home, and specifically urban gardening during this workshop today. So as you guys probably all know, gardening is the process of just kind of, planting, whether it's flowers or vegetables, in your backyard, or honestly in any type of space that you kind of have. And yeah, in this picture you probably can't see super well, but just, someone gardening. And I want this to be kind of as interactive as possible. So the first thing is, why do we garden? So if you could kind of add your answers into the chat, that'd be great. So anything that you think is important and kind of why people are passionate and interested in gardening and why it's just important in general would be good. So yeah, please add things into the chat. Also, for anyone that just joined on, like I was saying, we are currently just talking about why it's important to garden. So if you could leave your answers as to why you think it's important to garden into the chat, that would be great. So we're getting a couple of different answers. Yeah, for sure, you can grow your own food. It's definitely a way to save money. If anybody else has any other answers, please add them in. You could make money, yes. Yep, it's definitely a great way to help the environment. So we will just keep on going. Yeah, so I will kind of read it off because I can't really, of course, see, and then I'll bring it in closer to you guys since it's just difficult with not being able to share a screen. A couple of the reasons that we had listed is, of course, gardening is a great way to help like your physical health, just being outside, and also your mental health, being in, I think, this very like natural environment and just getting, all the fresh air. It's a great thing to do, especially right now. Eating better, of course, just like you were saying, of growing your own food. It can bring people and communities and families together, and honestly, just make a greener, better, more environmentally friendly world. And yeah, so if you guys want to, let me see if I can zoom in a bit closer into it. And I know it's like very hard to read the words on the screen, so we'll just have to kind of make do. And this slide is just about kind of the relationship between us and gardening. So it's kind of described as a symbiotic relationship, meaning that we depend on earth and nature and gardening, just like they kind of depend on us, and that whole I guess transition of carbon, whether it's us breathing out carbon dioxide, and us breathing in oxygen and that kind of thing, where plants really help us to do that. So it's important to like kind of all ecosystems on Earth. And yeah, now so we're going to talk about specifically the importance of urban gardening, which is kind of where we focus on specifically. So similar to how we just kind of did that last time, if people could now add into the chat why it is important to have more urban gardening, that would be great. And I know some of the things might overlap between importance of gardening and urban gardening, but yes, if there's like some things I guess that are better for like one versus the other, if you could add those in, that'd be good. So again, for like new people that just joined on, if you could add into the chat reasons why it's great to have more urban gardening on our planet, please add them into the chat / type them into the chat now. it definitely does make things more lively. Kind of along that track, I'm just gonna kind of start describing some of the different reasons as well. Um, I think for a lot of times, especially students and just like people in general, always kind of think of farming and gardening as something that has to be done on these like large plots of land. But there's so much importance in kind of eating locally, and no matter kind of what environment slash ecosystem that you live in, it's always great to have that food come from as close as possible. So if you're not living, really near a farm or some more kind of land, being able to grow things right in your backyard or in your area is really great. So kind of the things that we had said is that it is more sustainable for the people and planet. It's definitely helping to strengthen local economies. Urban farming helps kind of bring nutrition back on the table. Like I had said, part of the reason why we started the Urban Garden Initiative was to tackle the major food desert problem that not only existed within my community, but many others. So by having people in urban communities grow their own food definitely helps to kind of lessen slash alleviate that issue. Um, Urban farming and kind of growing organically can be kind of tied hand in hand and be just really great overall. Again, it helps with community building, having people go outside, grow food, no matter kind of what environment that is really great. And it brings people back to nature, as gardening always does, but especially in an urban environment, having people being able to go outside and do that is really great. So normally, if I was able to share my screen, I would be showing you guys a video about rooftop farming, but I don't think we're going to be able to do that today. It's going to be a little tricky. But yes, so we're kind of start transitioning into the gardening kind of demonstration during this. So I wanted to show you guys a couple of different ways that you can start gardening no matter what environment that you live in. So one option is, of course, rooftop gardening, especially for a lot of restaurants. It's something that you're seeing more and more. And I'm going to show you guys on the slide a couple of other ways to start gardening. I also have some things I'm going to show you guys. So on this slide, and again, you probably can't see the words. A couple ways that we describe gardening is that you can do it within like a sink or a bathtub or a bucket, something that just kind of, you might have tossed away otherwise. You can do it in a plastic pipe, and I'm actually going to show you guys how to garden within like an empty yogurt container or sour cream container. And people have gardened in plastic water bottles before. If you guys can see that picture, that's again another really easy way to garden using stuff that you already have and materials you already have at home. People garden even in windows as kind of like a makeshift greenhouse. That's another fun way to garden. And now we're going to get into kind of how to start your own garden. So a couple of the basic materials that you need are, and I have these right here, is I'm first going to show you guys, you don't necessarily always have to plant within soil. So for example, right here, this is just like a little, I guess, container that I had slash little pot. You can use, like I was saying before, an empty yogurt container, all of that. And these are actually green onion stems. So you kind of take green onions that you would use. You use, the green part that you normally do. And right at the end, there's a little stem. So you just put that little stem after you finish using the rest of it into some water. And in a couple of days, usually you already start seeing these green onions grow. So for example, this is kind of like a little stub. And you normally see at like the end of the green onion, you just stick it right in water and you can see all these other green onions kind of growing up. You can keep on cutting them and using them, and it's a really great way to kind of repurpose scraps that you would otherwise have. And again, like I was saying, they're just planted in water. You don't even need soil for this. So this is such an easy project to start at home, just taking water, any kind of container that you have, and some veggie scraps. And a lot of other plants you can kind of do in a similar way where you just start them off in water. Sometimes you might have to put them into soil once they get a little larger, but green onions are something you can kind of just keep in water and have on your windowsill. Another kind of project I'm going to talk to you guys about is actually starting a container garden. So this is just, a little gardening pot. Again, if you had a sour cream container, you had something of the similar size, adding in a couple of holes at the bottom, it becomes a pot that you can use for gardening. A lot of plants, you want to make sure that they have enough space to grow. And you don't want to keep them in like little crowded containers. So for example, if you were like growing a tomato plant, it might start off really small and it seems like you can just grow it in this container, but plants, just like humans, need kind of air and space to grow. So you want to start putting them, and even this container is a little bit small, in maybe like a larger container in order for them to grow really well. So you just need, some kind of container, soil, ideally some nicer quality soil. You can go to the hardware store and get some pretty nice soil for pretty inexpensive, and it can last you a while as it's usually in a pretty big bag. You need a plant. Right now, since we're kind of in, later or middle summer, it's kind of harder to start things completely from seed. So you can go and get a small plant. Like I was saying with the green onion, sometimes there's plants that you can kind of repurpose from a veggie scrap and just plant it straight into soil. You can actually do that with potatoes, certain types of potatoes, and some other plants. Then you of course need water and some nice sunlight. And if you have the opportunity also to get some nice fertilizer, that's good. That's something you can buy. You can also use common items such as like eggshells or coffee grounds if you're just starting off, and place them right kind of in your soil, and that helps with some different things. And depending on kind of what issues your plant runs into as you grow it, you might have to, change things here and there in order to ensure that it's growing the best way possible. But again, it's very easy to start. Right now, the weather is really awesome. It's a great time to, have your plants outside and make sure they get lots of nice natural sunlight, and that kind of thing. So that's literally how easy it is to start your own container garden. If you have the space in your backyard and where you live, planting plants directly into soil is really great and ensures that they really have enough room. That's like a very common mistake where people kind of crowd so many plants together, and that makes it harder for everything to grow. So ensuring that your plants have enough room is sometimes, a really easy mistake that some people might make. So you can do that as well. The point of all this is to show that there's really a large variety of things that you can do to kind of start gardening. And you can garden in so many different places and spaces and all of that, and it's really easy to get started. So that's kind of that. And now we're going to kind of enter into the Q&A section. So again, for new people joining in, if you have questions about just the Urban Garden Initiative in general, about gardening and planting and anything that I mentioned, please add them into the chat, and happy to answer any questions that kind of come up. So we got one question, and it is, what is the best time of year to start from seed? I think there's a couple different times of year that you can garden. A lot of people think that it's only kind of this spring, summer month that you can be gardening, but where we live here within Delaware, you can kind of be gardening also within the fall because it's still kind of warm enough, especially like early fall. So in order for the kind of like summer plants, I would say it's great to start planting from seed in kind of late-ish spring. So starting your seeds maybe in indoors in maybe April, getting them to maybe like, this kind of size, and then transplanting them once it gets warmer, whether it's kind of late May, early June, into whether it's larger containers or in the soil. And it really depends on specifically the weather and climate where you live. So I would say, and also kind of year to year as well. Some years it might be warmer, some years it might be colder. So that kind of depends on when you can bring the seeds outside and when it's right for them to be outside. So, but that's just kind of like a general rule of thumb that you can kind of use. Yeah. So is there any other questions that people had? Yeah, I'm also interested to hear if anybody's like growing their own food currently, what you guys are kind of growing at home and how that's going as well. So add that into the chat as well. Yeah, that's a great question. Is there any food that can be grown indoors? Yes, for sure. So, like I had mentioned, green onions, like the ones I actually showed you just now, have been growing indoors. You just have to, I think, one main thing to keep in mind when you're growing food indoors is that it has to be in like a nice sunny spot, and there needs to be ample sunlight, similar to if it was going to be grown outside. So, if you have a nice bright lit window within your kitchen or near your kitchen, that's a great place to have your plants. Addition to the green onions, I think herbs are another great like windowsill plant. Basil is super easy to grow, something that you can definitely get started. Cilantro, parsley, mint as well, and those can be grown in containers right on a windowsill. And of course, there's also a variety of like other plants that are not edible as well that you can be growing at home, small like succulents and things. I know you had specifically mentioned food. Additional to that, I would say usually you just want to search for plants that again don't need like huge amounts of space. Those should be definitely grown outdoors, and you kind of need to just look at how much sunlight the plant that you're growing needs. So if it needs lots of sunlight, that's definitely not a plant I would suggest growing at home. If it needs kind of like moderate sunlight, just keeping it indoors is fine, as long as it's also ensuring that your house is not like super humid or super dry. There's not like large variance in weather, and also it's not like right next to the air conditioner or something like that. But yes, for sure, there's definitely lots of food that you can grow at home, and probably lots that I'm not even talking about. Um, if anyone else, I'll probably stay on for another like minute or two. If anyone else has any other questions, please leave them in the chat now. I will also add my contact information / email right into the chat. So if you guys want to reach out, please do. I also add my website into the chat, so you guys can check out the work that we do, or if you would like to get involved in any way, that is great as well. That's our website. And let me add my email in as well. And that is my email. Cool. So if no one else has any questions, I'm just going to start wrapping up right now. It was really great talking to and kind of virtually meeting everyone. And just kind of, talking a little bit more about what we do at the Urban Garden Initiative, how we got started. Again, if you're a student watching this and you're interested in starting a nonprofit or business, definitely do it. Don't let anyone stop you. Even though, sometimes you might have people be like, oh, you're too young, or you don't have enough experience. It's something I think a lot of people can do as long as you have something that you're really passionate about doing. And again, if anyone else has any gardening questions, that kind of thing, is interested in kind of getting involved with our container gardening program, having some of our workshops, learning about some of our other work, please check out our website and that kind of thing. But it was really great meeting and talking to everyone, and hopefully you guys also got some useful information from this. And yeah. I am going to now kind of wrap it up if no one else has any final thoughts. But it was, really great meeting everyone. I'm gonna close out now. Bye, everyone.